Now, we're all familiar with the reminder to drink responsibly, but what about making sure that your drinks are legit? One group is on a mission to help consumers ensure that they are enjoying authentic alcohol products. For more on this, we have David Francis, Managing Director of the Alliance Against Counterfeit Spirits, or AACS, joining us via Zoom from London. Good morning from Manila, David, and good evening to you there.
Good evening from the UK. Thank you very much for having me.
You know what, David? We were talking about this topic yesterday while we were planning the show for today, and we encountered the term illicit alcohol, and we were wondering what was this all about? And until now, I really had no idea that counterfeit alcohol is actually a thing. Yeah. Now, your group has this campaign, Drink Authentic, Enjoy Responsibly, right? So let's talk about that and its primary objectives.
Yeah, so the campaign is the first we've ever launched in Southeast Asia, talking directly to consumers primarily through social media. As you say, the key message is to drink authentic and enjoy responsibly. That's to say, drinking responsibly starts with buying authentically, buying the real product. Mm-hmm. And I guess what we're trying to do is talk directly to consumers to remind them that illicit alcohol is out there. It's something that you should be aware of. Secondly, of course, there's a personal risk in drinking illicit alcohol. It's been produced in uncontrolled conditions by uncontrolled individuals, and therefore there are health risks there. And then lastly, of course, it damages the economy because this product doesn't carry duty, doesn't carry tax, and that's a real hit to all the consumers in the Philippines and other markets too.
Mm-hmm. You know what, David, this is really scary because how will you know that what you're taking is illicit alcohol? Because normally you would just go to a bar and order drinks, right? So you have absolutely no idea that what you're consuming is actually counterfeit alcohol.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. We're talking generally about the things that consumers could be aware of and shoppers should be aware of. So just think about the place that you're in. Think about the quality of the outlet. Is it somewhere that you could trust? Think about the price too. Oftentimes what we find with counterfeit alcohol, which is particularly these days sold post-pandemic online, is that pricing is crazy. It's too good to be true, and it's something to watch out for. Also, if you're buying in stores, have a closer look at the product. Check out the liquid. Does it look good? Does it look of high quality? Is there any debris, any residue in there? Something to think about too. And then look at the packaging. Does it look of high quality? Are there maybe errors on there? Does the labeling look really good? Has the cap been tampered with? These are all things to look out for. And just by taking some of these sensible checks, you can really reduce the risk that you're exposed to these kind of things.
Well, David, speaking of risks, what are the risks associated with consuming counterfeit or illicit alcohol products?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question. I touched on the key one for the consumer, which is health. These products, whether are not produced in well-controlled conditions, they don't necessarily follow the kind of health and safety and food standards regulations that you will find in organized industries. That's the first thing. So you're taking a risk with your health. Secondly, and really importantly, sometimes counterfeiters can use really quite dangerous substances like methanol to produce that spirits feel. And unfortunately, we've seen in recent months in Laos, in Turkey, in India, in Iran, and elsewhere, consumers frankly dying from the consumption of counterfeit alcohol that's contained methanol, and that's a real worry. So we should be very clear that the consumption of illicit alcohol in uncontrolled conditions, made oftentimes by very bad actors, can lead to some very serious health consequences.
Right, David. I just want to know what are the main symptoms of drinking illicit alcohol and how it affects your health. I mean,
you're gonna feel sick pretty quickly. You're gonna feel pretty. This isn't a regular thing, so you're gonna feel pretty sick. You might find that you're struggling to process what's going on around you. Right. You're going to feel very lethargic. These are some of the things, and oftentimes what we find too, where you have people consuming alcohol that is not of the highest quality, you might find that you get a really surprising hangover the next day. That's also one of the symptoms that we see oftentimes.
Right. Do you think that most of illicit or counterfeit alcohol are produced domestically in different countries, or are they imported?
The truth is that every country has large amounts of liquor, pretty much everywhere in the world. So actually, the liquid is the easy part to source. To be honest, what we're finding, particularly post-pandemic, is the quality of the components that are needed, glass, labels, new caps, these kind of things, has gone up around the world as manufacturing of these things has become more industrialized, and they're now shipped from country to country. So it's become easier, frankly, and the internet has helped with this, for people that have access to raw material liquor to brand that up or to sell it and make it look a bit more authentic, which is another reason why this campaign is really, really important for consumers to hear these messages.
Right. David, just one last question for me. What is the economic impact of illicit or counterfeit alcohol to economies of different countries? Maybe
huge.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, if I take the Philippines as an example, estimates have been made in recent studies that maybe 20 to 30% of alcohol consumed is unrecorded. That's hasn't been sold through standardized official channels. Now, what does that mean? It means that there's no tax, there's no duty, people aren't getting payroll taxes when they're producing this, so we lose that. There's no duty, no VAT. So for the state, somewhere in the region, I think of about 40 billion pesos a year is lost through lost tax revenues in the Philippines alone.
That can go to health and other social
for sure.
services.
That's true.
Oh my goodness.
So when we're talking about responsible drinking, we're also talking about this aspect too, of course.
Right. David, in your experience, what are the biggest misconceptions that people have about counterfeit alcohol?
I think people can get tricked by price very easily and think they're getting a good deal when in fact they're not. I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is people think, oh, surely people wouldn't be taking these kind of risks that I've been talking about today. People wouldn't be doing these kind of things with things that you consume. But unfortunately, that is the case in many markets. And we have just very recent examples, particularly from Laos, where numerous tourists have died from the consumption of illicit alcohol.
Now, we talked about the detrimental effects of the illicit alcohol to different economies around the world. Now, are there any government policies or international agreements supporting the fight against counterfeit or illicit alcohol?
Yes, indeed. As an organization, we work with governments around the world. We work with law enforcement officers. We train customs officers. We support law enforcement to tackle this problem head on. Both physically in the field, we seek to work with law enforcement to target individual producers of this stuff, but also the components that I talked about earlier. But also we increasingly work with customs officers to identify suspect shipments of components, but also finished products moving from country to country. So around the globe, this is a topic that law enforcement and government do understand and work with us, and we support them in the efforts to tackle this. But it's a growing problem, of course.
Yeah, what about liquor firms and other stakeholders? Are they doing anything to collaborate to combat counterfeit alcohol?
Yeah, so Alliance Against Counterfeit Spirits is a collaboration between the major international spirits producing companies. They fund us, they mutualize their investment in trying to keep their consumers as safe as possible through our organization. So what we have actually is a bunch of competitors that spend the majority of their time trying to convince consumers that theirs is the right product to choose, actually collaborating in this space to do things well, to do things efficiently, to do things once, and to make it as easy as possible for law enforcement and government to engage, one time with a consistent set of messaging and a consistent set of support. So that's one thing that they're doing. But secondly, from cap innovation technology, labeling, QR codes, but also liquid analysis technology. They're investing all the time in improving the security of supply chain and our ability to identify counterfeit liquor wherever we find it.
You know what, David, we wish we had more time to talk about this topic, such an interesting one we have this morning. But before we let you go, what message do you have for consumers to ensure that they drink responsibly and choose authentic products?
Like, just very simply, engage with our social media campaign across Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and other channels. Educate yourself a little bit. Learn how to spot this stuff, or do your best to spot it. If you spot it, report it to the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines or to us via our website. And then, of course, a big message from me today is dispose of it securely. And when you're buying genuine products, also dispose of those bottles securely so that they can't be reused and refilled in the future and continue to fuel this industry.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from London. David Francis, Managing Director of the Alliance Against Counterfeit Spirits, or AACS. Thank you, David.
Pleasure. Have a good day. Thank you.